we were fortunate enough to both get into the Amazon. Was it like a pre-screening or
Correct.
early screening of One Night in Miami, a movie that's drawing quite a bit of buzz um, for I think a number of reasons that we're going to get into. But the thing that I noticed first when doing a little bit, looking into this movie a little bit, when I first heard about it, was Regina King uh, directing this adaptation of a play that has been in Los Angeles and in the UK, not on Broadway yet. But the fictional telling of a night in was 1965, I
Yeah, after
believe,
Muhammad Ali beats Sonny Liston, the night that follows.
and Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay at the beginning of the movie, Muhammad Ali by the end. Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, Malcolm X are all celebrating the win or in the ring by Cassius Clay, and looking at I think some very interesting perspectives on uh, the role of black men in the social justice movement of the 1960s. Um, I guess first, like, what was your experience just getting a chance to see this movie before it's out on Amazon next week?
Yeah, it'll be out on Amazon the 15th. After playing in like token theater release back in December, so it's nice to get this in even just a little early, and uh, knowing that it was a stage adaptation from the Kemp Powers play. Kemp Powers also wrote this film version. We just talked about Kemp Powers for his role in Pixar's Soul. Very strong year for him, without question. Knowing that it's a stage adaptation and having just seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom on Netflix, you have preconceived notions about what the movie is and what the movie will not be. And I was happy with still how theatrical I felt the movie was, despite largely taking place in one setting, like a lot of theatrical adaptations does. Um, it still had that cinematic feel, I should say. And I was really just struck with the acting, and I think that was kind of the buzz going in, was that it was a movie with strong acting. And even though it's a real life meeting that happened, obviously the dialogue, these scenes in the hotel room is completely fictional. No one really knows what they did and didn't do or talk about that night. But I think the creative license in this case is really good, and it makes sense that this has been a successful play because of how resonant the topics are, and how capable these famous figures are as avatars for these thoughts that still resonate today. So I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you're talking about these performances that we get, and you have obviously Leslie Odom Jr., whose star has risen a lot since he played Aaron Burr as the production of Hamilton, the original cast. But really, the most tenured screen actor that you have here is Aldous Hodge,
Yeah.
who you know from The Invisible Man, Hidden Figure, Straight Outta Compton,
Hmm.
going all the way back to first time I remember seeing him was Friday Night Lights, the TV show where he played Voodoo. Voodoo, I forgot the last name of the guy, but he was an opposing quarterback. And um, all respect to Aldous Hodge, but maybe not somebody that when you think of like top tier actors immediately comes to mind for you. So you kind of look at this cast and maybe going in, you might say, there's not really a big name here that's drawing me in. But I think you walk away and you're really impressed with, I think, everybody. And Hodge would probably be my fourth favorite performance in the film. I think especially the dynamic between Kingsley Ben-Adir and Leslie Odom Jr. playing Malcolm X and Sam Cooke, respectively. The tension between them, the back and forth dialogue. I mean, they definitely have the meatiest parts to play, I'd say. I mean, uh, Eli, is it Gory or Gore?
I think it's gory, double
Yeah,
E there.
Gory. Um, he gets to chew the scenery a lot.
Yeah,
Kind of really playing up the Cassius
yeah,
Clay
very young
accent. Yeah,
at the time,
yeah,
supposed to be.
and
Yeah,
and bombasticness, but Really, the movie is between Malcolm X and Sam Cooke. Tell me just your thoughts around Kingsley and Odom Jr. In these roles.
Oh yeah. Well, Leslie Odom Jr. is obviously a good piece of casting as a
Hmm.
legendary soul singer because Leslie Odom Jr. is a singer himself.
Got the
So,
pipes.
and he has good acting chops on top of that. So that adds to the performance when he's actually doing the singing. And we've already
Hmm.
seen him do it. We know what that's going to be. And it's really a wonderful contrast to have that with Kingsley Ben-Adir's Malcolm X because their kind of conflict, I think, is really great. Like, yes, they're talking about how white run society dictates their lives, and you have the scene like I think a really strong scene early on when Jim Brown goes to meet someone in Georgia
Mm,
that he's known for a long time and just still experiences this like blatant terrible racism, right? And like it's a really stark scene. So you have like that kind of obvious stuff, but like they actually kind of gravitate away from kind of the open discussion where everyone knows where they stand when it comes to like the black experience. And Malcolm and Cook seem to focus more on like the community and
yeah.
helping the community and things like ownership and how black power dynamics and like how you should be operating when you're successful and actually beating white society. And I think that's the kind of stuff where again it's still a really resonant topic. You can think of hearing that from all kinds of entertainers, whether it's someone like even like a Kevin Hart has talked about that kind of stuff before when he's doing interviews, right? um
Hmm.
or like Diddy or Jay Z or something, right? Like it's
Yeah.
a common idea, but to hear it from them thinking about that in the '60s, right? And this day where this happened, this meeting is only about a year before Malcolm X is killed, and Cook also dies tragically not too soon after that. So,
Yeah.
um, you have that hanging over it, that heaviness if you know the history, and the movie makes a good point of reminding you about Malcolm's history in particular if you didn't. Um, to have them like with that heaviness and that I think that weight because it's coming from them, and then you're discussing these themes I think really eloquently that happen to still resonate today. The writing is really impressive.
Yeah. It's interesting to take these four black stars who are really at the height of their powers during this time. Sam Cooke had multiple hits on the top 100 chart by that point, and had already had his own label, had all of his masters, like he talks about in the movie. Muhammad Ali obviously just ascends to the top of the boxing world and will go on to be one of the most visible and recognizable people in the United States for the next 2 to 3 decades. Jim Brown, obviously, right next to like OJ Simpson is two of like the most famous football players. I mean, OJ comes, I guess, a little bit later. Jim Brown's more that OG football,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's really like you have these people at the height of their power, and it throws them into this discussion about what's the responsibility with that power and how do you go about using that to help your fellow black man out. And I really the line of dialogue that really stuck most with me, or I guess the moment that stuck most with me, was the when Sam Cooke is talking about um how he sold that other singer's song to to, I forgot who it was, like the Rolling Stones or some
Yeah.
other band.
Exactly.
And
For her
then that
cover.
yeah, and then that song gets played over and over, and instead of making all the money off it going to the top and then falling off the charts, every time that song gets played, they get royalties from that, and that's how he is moving, his fellow man forward. He's helping to economically break free of the constraints of the white man in America. And Malcolm X then takes out the vinyl and puts the Bob Dylan song. Blown in the Wind, and plays that song and says more about our experience than anything you've ever sang. And just like I really loved that back and forth because I think it just so beautifully like summarized the issue at the heart of the movie. Is like, what do you do with this power when you have it, and how do you help move forward, but just in a way that wasn't totally like in your face, because it's just such a layered argument. And then as they both go their separate ways and talk, you kind of hear them both like admitting that they each were right in different ways. But it's a mix of using all these different facets of your powers. It's
Mhm.
really really interesting and thought provoking. And I really found that to be probably the part of the movie I connected most with. Any other scenes or moments that really like connected with you?
I think they did a good job of having levity
Mhm.
come in here and there, whether it's like the bodyguard scene or when he comes into the room, or when Cook and Brown are talking about wanting to get some women involved in the party.
Mhm.
Or I think the funniest thing for sure was when they ask Malcolm what kind of ice cream he has, and he's like vanilla and vanilla, and it was right on the heels of them roasting him for not being like a good party host. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is perfect. And uh, I think they do a really good job of contrasting the different personalities that those guys had on top of different careers and uh, different ways of approaching similar viewpoints. So that was good. And heck, even some of the supporting characters, really small roles, right? You have Lance Reddick as one of the bodyguards. Everyone knows him from John Wick recently. Lawrence Gilliard as
And
the
The
trainer.
Wire. Wait. I'm not gonna let you gloss over that. From John Wick, like
Well,
Lance
he's in
Reddick.
everything. Is he in The Wire? I didn't know he's in The Wire.
Oh yeah, he plays Captain. I forgot what his name is, but
He's been a cop a billion times. Yeah.
he's great.
Okay.
Go
Yeah.
ahead
Well,
though.
Lawrence Gilliard's from The Wire. I know that.
Yep.
Uh, Trainer, and then Jeremy Pope and that Sam Cooke scene as a Jackie Wilson. I like that. Heck, you even got a Fountain Blue cameo. Shout out Marvel's Mrs. Maisel. Um, so even though again it's largely set in one location, has that stage play feel, I think Regina King does a really good job of like whether it's like rotating that camera around or just kind of moving out and about when with the hotel from time to time. It definitely felt still plenty cinematic to me, and I actually was quite happy to see Aldous Hodge in like a meaty role like this. 'Cause I've always really liked him, and he's kind of been doing a lot of like oppressed, like imprisoned even characters recently, like in Clemency and what was it, Brian Banks. But like I think this was a really good role for his, and I couldn't really tell, but I feel like he actually. Do you think he like bulked up for this? Like he looked pretty big as Jim Brown.
Uh, yeah, he was pretty big. I mean, I don't know what else he's working on. I don't know if it was just for this, but he definitely looked huge. And um, Eli Gorey looked like
Oh yeah,
enormous, like
he was just like
linebacker.
peak human specimen shape for that. Yeah, no
Yep.
question. Um, but performance wise, though, I think Kingsley Ben-Adir is the clear uh, highlight, just because he's someone who's been around a little bit. Like I knew him from High Fidelity. You said you saw him in
Noel.
Noel, the noted Disney Plus rom com holiday comedy. Um, but have a movie like this, where no one really knows your name as far as acting goes, and
Mhm.
to Malcolm X again. That's a character that's been played with great esteem by Denzel Washington, the same way Muhammad
Mhm.
Ali's been done by Will Smith. So to take on these characters and bring something different to the performance and not just try and copy what had been done before, I think is really great. And I think for Kingsley, kind of the way he would shift between being understanding and being kind of like mild mannered, then also like really sticking to what he believed. And um, as the movie progressed, you really sense his foreboding, his caution, his sense of dread about his situation. He was expressing that a lot, right? Both his standing with the Nation of Islam and also his the prevalence of the FBI
Mhm.
wherever he went, right? Stuff like that. And again, how it ends. But heck, even when the movie starts and I see Malcolm, I like the fight, for example, wherever he is, I'm like, man, like is Malcolm moving right? Like I'm just scared something's gonna happen to him because and then you can tell that he has the bodyguards, the hotel and stuff. But
Yep.
yeah, Kingsley Ben-Adir, without question, I think is tremendous in this, and he's definitely in the mix for best actor. Best actor is pretty loaded this year, so not a lock he gets nominated. Although I think One Night in Miami's gonna do pretty well at the nomination. Seems like it's pretty safe for a best picture nomination, and Regina King even will probably contend for a director nomination. So we'll be hearing more about the movie, no question.
Yeah. Is this Regina King's first directing
She's directed some
thing?
TV. This is her first film.
That's what I thought. Really impressive from her.
I mean, if she if she was to pick up a Best Director nomination right after winning like bunch of Oscars and Emmys in like a 5 year stretch. Like the run is just incredible right now.
Well, I'm hoping she gets the nomination because I think this is definitely worth it. But um, very, very solid movie, and definitely check it out when it drops on Amazon Prime this Friday. Or is it on Prime or is it just dropping on
It's
Amazon
on.
for
It'll be on
rest?
Friday on the 15th
Okay,
on
so
Prime.
give it a watch because I know you have Amazon Prime.